Is your world feeling gray? Do you feel powerless to change what's around you? Meet Mr. Silas, the grumpiest man on a forgotten street. But one small act will spark an unexpected transformation, not just for him, but for his whole neighborhood. Discover how change begins with you and how one small step can paint a whole new future. Mr. Silas was known throughout the neighborhood as the grumpy old man who always had something to complain about. Every day he would sit on his creaky front porch and grumble about the state of the street he had lived on for over 40 years. The houses around him were run down and dull, all painted the same faded gray, and litter crunched underfoot on the cracked pavement. Weeds poked through the cracks like stubborn weeds themselves, and the air was filled with a heavy silence. This silence was broken only by Mr. Silas' constant muttering. "Oh, yeah, nobody cares anymore," he'd detail his tabby cat, Whiskers, who often curled up on his lap trying to stay warm. "The city's forgotten us. The young people don't respect where they live. There's no hope." Each day, as he watched, he hoped someone, anyone, would step up and fix the street. But no one did. The neighbors kept to themselves, avoiding even a passing greeting. It was as if the spirit of the street had wilted away, and Mr. Silas' complaints were the only sound left. One particularly dreary morning, as he sat glaring at the faded crisp packet lying just outside his gate, something inside him shifted. The packet had been there for days, crumpled and dirty. Usually he would have just scowled and looked away, but this time a thought flickered in his mind. With an unexpected burst of energy, Mr. Silas stood up, shuffled outside, and stooped to grab the trash. It was a small act, almost too small to matter. But as he stood back up, he glanced down his street and felt a strange feeling of quiet pride. Then his eyes wandered to his own front door, its paint peeling and dull from years of neglect. The bright blue paint tin hidden away in his shed came to mind. He hadn't thought about it in years. On a whim, he fetched the paintbrush and the tin, and for the rest of the afternoon, he worked cautiously but determinedly, covering the worn door with bold strokes of blue. When he finished, the door looked almost new, vibrant against the gray dullness of the road. Mr. Silas wiped his hands on his pants and felt a strange warmth spread through him. It was good. It was better than he had expected. The next morning, Mrs. Harper, a young woman who lived across the street whom Mr. Silas had never stopped to chat with, only grunted at, paused on her way to work. She smiled warmly at him and said, "Mr. Silas, the door looks wonderful. It really brightens up the place." The smile caught Mr. Silas off guard. It felt nice. Nice enough that for the first time in weeks, he smiled back. That small exchange seemed to lift a weight he had carried for a long time. Mrs. Harper, encouraged by the now cheerful street, decided to plant a small box of red geraniums on her windowsill that weekend. The little splash of color and life inspired others. The family who lived across the street dusted off their old lawnmower and trimmed their overgrown yard. More neighbors began to pick up stray litter and pull weeds from between the cracks. Slowly, the street came back to life, not because of grand plans or city projects, but because one man stopped waiting for change and became the change himself. It taught Mr. Silas something vital. The beginning of any transformation starts with a single step. Sometimes it begins with a single piece of trash picked up, or a front door painted with hope. And so the spirit of the street was rekindled, not just in the buildings, but in the hearts of its people, because Mr. Silas finally realized that change begins with you. Mr. Silas started watering Miss Harper's flower boxes every morning. Mrs. Harper began to sit on Mr. Silas's porch during lunch break. Other neighbors fixed their broken fences and even painted their own doors in vibrant colors. The street became a place where people smiled and said hello. They even started a community garden at the end of the street. And so the street was never the same again.